for my late son Maxwell Chinedu Odua. His inspiration was to impact positively on people's lives. This he was doing till his untimely death. To commemorate this contribution of his to humanity, we are relaunching a foundation scheme in his memory, the Maxwell Foundation. February 8th, 2018, venue Transcorp Hilton Hotel Abuja, time 6 p.m. prompt. The vision of the foundation is to relive Bua's dream to empower the less privileged. In his words, every child is endowed with a peculiar talent, hence deserves the support of everyone to actualize it. The foundation has been involved in bringing light and succor to the less privileged children through its numerous scholarship programs, skill development scheme. Your presence will be highly appreciated. A formal invitation will be sent to yours truly, distinguished Senator Princess Stella Odua. I wish to acknowledge the presence petitions. Leader of the Senate.
Order, Mr. President.
Point of order, Senator Mao Wabua.
Senator Mao Aruko Wabua, Abia North. Mr. President, I rise on order 43, personal explanation.
Yeah, go ahead. Plenary.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, or no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make is sought. Mr. President, I want to thank you that this morning you have read the budget of NDDC. And if you look at the act that established NDDC, the composition of the commission is made up in accordance with the act. Abia State, Akwa Ibom State, Bayelsa State, Cross River State, Delta State, Edo State, Imo State, Ondo State, and Rivers State. C, 3 persons to represent non-oil mineral producing states, provided that such membership shall be drawn from the remaining geopolitical zones which are not represented in the commission. 1 representative of oil producing companies in the Niger Delta nominated by the oil producing companies. 1 person to represent the Federal Ministry of Finance. 1 person to represent Federal Ministry of Environment, the Managing Director of the Commission, and 2 Executive Directors. Mr. President, that is the composition of the NDDC board. And as I speak today, 2 or 3 states are not represented in this board. And this board has been inaugurated and they've been functioning. Mr. President, I agree that on this floor, we resolve to suspend screening. But this one was already long before that. The only thing that there was a replacement, and the process of screening was on before we took that decision. So, Mr. President, I'm bringing this before you for you to look at this and for the Senate to look at this and allow the committee to conclude that process of screening, because these 2 or 3 states are left unattended to. Things are working, things are moving on. The commission is working, but these states are not represented on the board. Mr. President, that's why I've come this morning, rising on this order, to plead with you and indeed the Senate to look at this issue and take NDDC from that resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Mao. As you all know, according to the point of order 43, it cannot be a debate. But I'm happy that you made reference to the fact that we all here at the Senate in session pass a resolution on this matter. The issue you've just raised, we'll look at it to see whether the exercise itself had started before the resolution. I know this resolution, we took it in March, if I can remember, end of March of last year. So we'll tell the Secretary to check the records to see whether that process, if it has started before, maybe someone will look into. But unfortunately, if it has started after, unless that resolution rescinded, we are all bound by that resolution. Thank you. All right then. Secretary, you look into that and check when that was started. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is also the presentation of an executive bill standing in my name on the 2017 FCT Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill. But before then, Mr. President, I want to indulge the Senate with your permission, sir, to move the motion for the suspension of our Order 79 to enable the Senate take the first and second reading of this bill in order to facilitate the passage of the bill for the FCT to have funds for the development that we all require. I so move. And I can read Order 79, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Order 79. Every bill shall receive 3 readings previous to its passage, which readings shall be in different days unless the Senate unanimously directs otherwise, and the President of the Senate shall give notice at each reading whether it is first, second, or third. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead, yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the Leader of the Senate. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, let me put the question in line with our rules, allowing us to stand down our rules regards the procedures on the passage of bills. Suspend the rules. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 2017 FCT Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2018, SB 598, first reading.
2017 FCT Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2018, SB 598, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. Yeah, since we're now taking second, do you have a lead debate on this?
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, this is an amendment that is just to enable the FCT continue with implementation of the 2017 budget. We have already passed the budget. It's a single clause amendment. I therefore urge all my colleagues here that we support. It's just to change the date. Distinguished colleagues, what we are amending, what we are amending, distinguished colleagues, what we are amending, what we are amending is the extension of date for implementation, not any substance or any element within the budget that we have passed.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. What is being amended here, distinguished colleagues, is just the date, which is instead of expiring on 31st. Wait, let me, Mr. President, protect me, please. Let me. Senator Bodi. Order. Yes, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is the budget of the FCT, you may wish to recall, Mr. President, was signed into law on 29th of December, which means that the budget had only one working day, which was 30th of December, and which at the end of the day lapsed. And because the budget had lapsed, what the President did was to send a letter to say that if we, based on section 122 of the Constitution, that the FCT should be allowed to operate the budget to 31st of December to 31st of March 2018. And so we don't have time as it is now, and that's why the leader suspended, that's why the leader moved for the suspension of the relevant rules to enable the Senate to take the second reading of the budget so that it can be passed. Mr. President, the only amendment here is March and December.
Yes. Minority leader. I can see that you are struggling. I can see that you are struggling very hard to push through this issue. I can see the concern of the members is that I think for 2 consecutive budgets now, the budget implementation of FCT has been very, very poor, and I'm sure that is why those are saying that, look, even if we pass this, where are we sure that they will implement? Minority leader, I will appeal to our colleagues. I will appeal to our colleagues. I understand your concern, because it's been very abysmal, the level of implementation of the FCT, and I'm sure that is why you are discouraged to proceed further. But I will appeal that let us do our own part, and I hope that you summon the minister to let him know that doing nothing at all in the initial implementation of the budget is not acceptable, and there is no point us passing budget if level of implementation is going to be so low, and that is why you are struggling to get the support. But I appeal to our colleagues, let us play our own part and get this 2017 amended and approved. So with that, if there are no more questions, let me put the questions. Those in support that this bill read second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 2017 FCT Appropriation Act, Amendment Bill 2018, SB 598, second reading.
(2017) FCT Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2018 SB 598, second reading taken. This refer to the FCT committee. When will we get report back, Senator Dinobilai? Okay, let us have it by Tuesday. Yes, point of order, Senator Marafa. Senator Marafa, just before that, let me wish to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Speaker and members of Portland State of Somalia who are in our gallery to observe our Senate proceedings. It's a great honor to have you with us this morning. We wish you a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. You are welcome to the Nigeria Senate. Thank you. Please, you can sit down. Thank you so much. Yes, Senator Marafa.
Thank you, Mr. President, my well-respected colleagues. Senator Marafa representing Zamfara Central. Mr. President, I'm citing Order 14, privileges. With your permission, I read. Privileges are the rights enjoyed by the Senate collectively and by the members of the Senate individually, conferred by the Legislative Powers and Privileges Act, Cap 208, Laws of the Federation 1990 and other statutes, or by practice, precedent, usage, and custom. Mr. President, I want to crave your indulgence and the indulgence of the Senate to demand for apology on me and this Senate in general from my very good friend, distinguished Senator Ben-Muri Bruce. In his submission last week on the state of insecurity in the country, he made reference, one, to our closed door executive session, which is a violation of the rules and the procedures of this Senate. Then two, in doing so, he was he said things that he has no knowledge on. The first day we discussed the issue of Benue State, we had a closed door session in which we discussed the issues of insecurity generally. And members were allowed to make contributions. And after that, we came into plenary and members were again asked to make their contributions. That day, I was called upon. I made my contribution. And all I said in the executive session, in fact, I said even more than what I said in the executive session. But during his contribution, he made remarks that there were things I said in the executive session which I didn't say in the plenary. That impinged on my personality, and the video went viral, suggesting that I shied away from my responsibility. That cast me in a very bad light in the public, and it cast this Senate in very bad light because issues we discussed in the executive sessions, you know, he made reference to them, which I think is very, very wrong in the first place. Yes, and to suggest that I didn't say it also cast me in very bad light. Because of this, I want the distinguished senator to clarify the ear. First, to know that when I made the contribution, he was not in the chamber. So he would have known that when, after he finished his own contribution, he left. So he never knew who and who made contribution or not. So I did my contribution that day, and the following day I did the same thing. So I expect my very good friend, distinguished Senator Ben-Muri Bruce, to give apology to me and to this Senate, and to desist from today from making references to any executive session. I think it's very wrong. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Ben-Muri Bruce.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Ben-Muri Bruce, representing Bielsa East. Senator Marafa, I hereby apologize to you, my friend. You're a good man. You're a good man. What you said was very, very important for this country. What you said was critical, and I will always support you in fighting those terrorists in your area. And things we say in private should not be said in public, but I was carried away by the emotions of the time. What I said was right, but referring to a closed-door session was wrong, and it violated the rules. For that reason, I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Ben-Muri Bruce, for that. Point of order sustained. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Gashon Basi on the Fire Hazard Prevention and Safeguard Bill 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Fire Hazard Prevention and Safety Guard Bill 2018, SB 568, first reading.
Fire Hazard Prevention and Safeguard Bill 2018, SB 568, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Obe Omo Agegi on the Federal Polytechnic Orogun Delta State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Polytechnic Orogun Delta State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 549, first reading.
Federal Polytechnic Orogun Delta State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 549, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Clifford Odia on the Federal College of Education, Osugbenu, Irua, Edo State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Education, Usugbenu, Irua, Edo State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 554, first reading.
Federal College of Education, Usugbenu, Irua, Edo State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 554, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Communications on the Nigerian Postal Service Act Cap N127 LFN 2004, repeal and reenactment bill 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite very distinguished Senator Gilbert Naji, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Just before I invite, let me just forget one announcement. The announcement for the bill for conference on the National Electoral Offences Commission Bill. The Senate has passed the above bill with references. Committee members, Senator Suleiman Azif, Senator Shehu Sani, Senator Biodun Lujimi, Senator Hope Uzodima, Senator Dinemla, and Senator Peter Waboshi. Please meet with your counterparts in the House of Representatives for conference. Senator Gilbert Naji.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Gilbert Naji, Enugu East. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do receive the report of Committee on Communications on the Nigerian Postal Service Act Cap N127, Law of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Repair and Reenactment Bill 2018, SB 106 and 437. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Tijani Kara, Zamfara North.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Tijani Hayakaura. I represent Zamfara North Senatorial District. I rise to support that the Senate do consider the report, receive the report on the Committee on Communication and Nigerian Postal Service Act Cap 127 LFN 2004, repeal and the enactment Act Bill 2018, SB 106 and the 437. I so support, Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Communication on Nigeria Postal Service Act Cap N127 LFN 2004, Repeal and Enactment Bill 2018, SB 106 and 437. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Gilbert Naji, come and lay the report, please. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University Gashua Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin, Chairman of the Committee, to do motion for the Senate report.
Senator Barau Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barau Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to move that this August Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University Gashua Establishment ETC Bill 2018 SB 459. Mr. President, I so move.
Senator Rose Oko.
Give me a... My name is Rose Oko. I represent Cross River North. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University Gashua Establishment Bill 2018 SB 459 to the date.
Distinguished colleagues, that those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University Gashua Establishment, etc. Bill 2018 SB 459. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Baraj will come and lay the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University of Health Sciences or Benue State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, once again, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Barau Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, I am Senator Barau Jibrin. I represent Kano North in this August Senate. Mr. President, I stand to move that this August Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University of Health Sciences of Benue State, established ETC Bill 2018 SB 504. Mr. President, I so move.
Senator Mohammed Hassan, UB South.
I am Mohammed Hassan, representing UB South Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University of Health Sciences, Otuko, Benue State, EST, Bill 2018, SB 504. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal University of Health Sciences, Otuko, Benue State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 504. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Baraj will come and lay the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Dino Malaye on the monumental corruption at the NNPC. Mr. President, you recall that on Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2018, the Senate by Order 42 sub 2 of our standing order approved that this motion be moved on the next legislative day, which is today. Accordingly, you may wish to invite Senator Dino Melai to move the motion. So move.
Senator Dino Melai.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Melai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I move this morning to move the motion on monumental corruption at the NNPC. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the Senate notes that the BRAS LNG was incorporated by the Corporate Affairs Commission on the 9th of December 2003 and is limited by shares of $1 million United States dollars. The Senate observed that the shareholders of this company are the federal government through the NNPC, represented by Mr. Funshoku Bolokun, with 490,000 US dollar shares. Philip Brass Limited, whose address is in Cayman Island, British West Indies, represented by Mr. R.L. Smith, with a share capital of 170 United States dollars. The third is ENI International BV, with address in Amsterdam, Netherlands, represented by Mr. A. Fozoli, with a share of 170 United States dollars, $1,000. While the fourth shareholder is Chevron Texaco Brass LNG Limited, with address in Bermuda, represented by Mr. J.A. Pryor, with a share of 170,000 United States dollars. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, the Senate this morning observes that from corporate affairs records, the following directors of the company, amongst other foreigners, are 1. Gaius Obaseki Jackson, former Group MD NNPC. Yakubu Andrew, former Group MD NNPC. Ibogomo Benyesa, staff of NNPC, as I speak, is still a staff of NNPC. Dawa Joseph Talma, staff of NNPC. Ige David, staff of NNPC. And lastly, Mr. Buba Muhammad. The Senate observes from the Memorandum of Understanding of BRAS LNG is supposed to be a joint venture company, with NNPC having controlling shares, and the account is supposed to be domiciled with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Surprised that the account of this company is with Keystone Bank, opened on the 1st of August 2012, with account number 10058251168, a United States domiciliary account with a closing balance of 186,462.54 kobo. Dollars, I'm sorry. While the sum of $648,000, 179,487 was recorded as the account last inflow on 19 September 2016, with a withdrawal of $4 million US, which was effected on the 18th of November 2016 without BVN. The Senate observes that a lot of questions are begging for answers as regards this company, BRAS LNG. The status of investment and principal objectives of the company we need to ascertain, the signatories to the account, the status of federal government investment in this company, the return on investment, was due process followed in the formation and appropriation of shares in the company. All these we will need to unravel. The need for the motion then. The Senate convenes that there is an urgent need to define the position of the company vis-a-vis its operations, management, and mandate in order to halt this seeming corruption. The Senate thereby accordingly resolves to mandate the Committee on Public Accounts to carry out a holistic investigation into the activities of Brass LNG and the complicity therein, as well as the level of corruption that has taken place, and report back to the Senate within 4 weeks. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, there is a popular Bogu adage that says that when you fetch a wood that is infested with ants, then when you see the company of lizard in your domain, you should not be surprised. Mr. President, what I have brought to the notice of the Senate is that there are a lot of clandestine companies registered fictitiously with the design to misappropriate and steal government money. And government officials find themselves as directors in this company and begin to steal through this process. So I want to bring this to the attention of the Senate that we need to unravel this whole exercise to find out what has happened to our investment, what is the function of this company, what are they doing, and why are we investing in the company. And since it was a federal government share, federal government have a controlling share, the account is supposed to be domiciled with the central bank. Why is it with a private bank? And now that it's with a private bank, the last $4 million that was withdrawn from that account, who signed it? Nigeria, Mr. President, is not a banana republic. We introduced the BVN to check corruption and also check money laundering in this country. How are they running an account that have no BVN, and yet withdrawals have been made from that account? So we need to invite the bank, invite all the relevant stakeholders, and unravel this corruption. We have no other country to call our own bodies. While they will continue to steal government money, this chamber will continue to expose corruption, not minding whose horse is God. We cannot keep quiet in the face of outrageous stealing and corruption. Mr. President, I will not belabor us with unnecessary commentaries. I want my colleagues to give the relevant committee the opportunity to go into this matter and unravel the truth. Mr. President, I thank you for your attention. I say God bless the Nigerian Senate.
Thank you, Senator Dinemilai. Always thank you for always being on the alert, looking for areas of suspicious transactions. I think, but before we conclude on which direction, I think the most appropriate chairman to give us information on this is the chairman on gas, Senator Abad Apan. Can you please contribute on this matter? And then after that, Senator Mohammed Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues. Mr. President, let me first of all second this motion ably moved by my brother, more distinguished Senator Dino Melaye. And Mr. President, I wish to make some following clarification, Mr. President, to the knowledge of this Senate and my distinguished colleagues, so that it will aid our contributions in this regard. Mr. President, this issue has been in the front burner of the Committee on Gas since last year, Mr. President, and we had engaged NNPC in this matter over the last couple of months. And what we found out as a committee, Mr. President, is that the said account exists, and the name of the account is Brass LNG and Nigerian LNG dividend account. What this account does, Mr. President, is that there was a presidential approval sometime about 2 years ago or several years ago to use the dividends on Nigerian dividend on NLNG to fund part of NNPC joint venture portion of the Brass LNG account. So, Mr. President, the proceeds into this account usually comes from Nigerian LNG dividends account. And what led to the stock of this money, not only in Keystone Bank with the president, we also have some money stock in Diamond Bank, was that when the federal government started implementation of TSA, most of the banks had invested the dollar element of these account balances in their various transactions. So the bank became insolvent and could not muster enough of the balances transferred to TSA. The said withdrawal of $3 million, Mr. President, was that when the presidency directed Central Bank of Nigeria to step into the matter, so Central Bank of Nigeria monitored this fund, so the only fund that came into the account, which was about $3 million, was what was transferred to TSA. And in the inquiries with the NMPC, with the president, this said account has BVN that are authorized signatories. Mr. Girl Baseki is the former GMD of NMPC and the chairman of the board of directors of Brass LNG. So, Mr. President, not only is this money stock in the Keystone Bank, the similar amount of money is also stock in the Diamond Bank and other banks. And I believe that the Committee on Public Accounts, after its investigation, will enable the Senate on unravel most of these issues that we have brought to the fore. So, Mr. President, I wish to thank my brother, Senator Dino Malai, like you have said, for always being at red alert, and I want to say that I think there is no cause for alarm. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and God bless you.
Distinguished colleagues, this is a very straightforward motion. If we can just go to the prayer so we can send it to the relevant committees to deal with. So the prayer is the mandate, the Committee on Public Account. Oh, okay. Yes, Senator James Manja.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, James Wall Manager, CON Delta South. Mr. President, for the prayer, with what we have heard from the Chairman's League Committee on gas, I think it's important for, yes, the Committee on Public Accounts can lead the probe, but let the Committee on Gas be part of the panel. That is my amendment. Thank you.
Any seconder? Yes, Senator Lidani, from your, are you acting? You're acting. Okay, since you are acting.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani, presenting Gombe South. I rise to second the motion by my learned colleague James Manager that the prayer be amended to include the Committee on Gas as co-committee.
Distinguished colleagues, I put the question, the prayer as amended. Mandate the Committee on Public Accounts and Gas to carry a holistic investigation into the activities of Brass LNG and the complicity therein, as well as the level of corruption that has taken place, and report back within 4 weeks. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, have it. Thank you. Leader of the Senate. Yes, Senator Mohamed Hassan.
Mr. President, I think we've not taken decision on the prayer. The prayer of the motion, because I have an amendment on it. That was an additional prayer.
No, that was an amendment to the prayer. There's only one prayer. Unless you have an additional prayer. We've passed the prayer. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. President. The prayer of the motion says, mandate the Committee on Public Accounts to carry out a holistic investigation into the activities of the Brass LNG and the complicity therein, as well as the level of corruption that has taken place. We have not ascertained that yet. I want to say to ascertain the veracity of the claim of the motion, rather than saying the level of corruption that has taken place. We have not established that yet, sir. That's my...
Okay, so you are not coming as an additional prayer. We've already taken that, so I think we missed that. Sorry. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day, the second order of the day, the second reading of the National Institute of Sports Act Amendment Bill 2018. The single senators will report that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 14th of October 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Shehu Sani to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Shehu Sani.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to move that I read the lead debate on the second reading of the National Institute of Sports Act Amendment Bill 2018. Distinguished colleagues, I have the honor to lead the debate on the general principles of a bill for an act to amend the National Institute for Sports Act N52 LFN 2011 to provide for the decentralization of the institute, create zonal sports centers for efficient and effective utilization of the abundant sports talent, and for other related matters, 2018. The bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 14th of October 2015. Sports is a globally accepted activity that binds various peoples of the world together. It helps to keep the human being mentally and physically alert at all times. Our country, Nigeria, competes in so many local and international sporting events and have brought laurels and glory to our dear nation. Nigeria is blessed with abundant talents in various sports such as football, athletics, boxing, swimming, judo, Scrabble, etc. The bill seeks to amend Section 3157, 8, 10, 11, 2, and 18 of the National Institute of Sports Act. The essence of this bill, which is to decentralize the operation of the National Institute for Sports, situated in Lagos, so that each geopolitical zone would have a national sports center. This will enable each center within geopolitical zone to find and source for talented Nigerians with huge passions for sports to participate and to represent the country in various national and international sports competitions, such as National Sports Festival and All African Games and the Olympics. This bill will enhance the performance of each zonal institute in the 6 geopolitical zones because of its interdependent structure and statutory budgetary allocation. The establishment of these zonal centers will ease the difficulty of discovering talented Nigerians in certain sporting activities who reside in an environment that enhances their performance, such as long-distance runners residing in mountainous communities. In conclusion, this bill, which situates a zonal sports center in each of the 6 geopolitical zones, will enhance the notion of catch them young through the organization of zonal sports festivals and ultimately represent the country in global competition. Mr. President, this bill is an amendment, and therefore there is no immediate cost implications for it. I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Barajbe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North in this August Senate. Mr. President, I stand to support this bill because of its importance. The importance of sport in our country cannot be overemphasized. And I do not want to bore you the features or the importance of amending this bill has been already stated in the lead debate as read by the sponsor. Mr. President, one of the important features of this bill is that there will be zonal offices in the geographical zones of this country. This will help to bring this institute closer to the people. And so, the discovery of talents in our localities will be made easier. And this will enhance the exporting activities in this country. It will make us to do better in national and international sporting events. It's a very, very, very direct and clear bill. The intent is very, very clear. The futures, as I said earlier, will help development of sport in this country very, very well. And so I call on our colleagues to support this bill so that we'll be able to take our sporting status to a higher level. I urge all of you, my distinguished colleagues, to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other contributions? If just before I get, I put it first. Yes, Senator Taz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Chukwuka Otaze. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. I want to lend my support to this very important amendment to this bill, to this act, the National Institute for Sports Act Amendment Bill 2018, as sponsored by our friend, Senator Shehu Sani, Kaduna Central. Mr. President, is a very common understanding in this country that sports act as a unifying factor among all the segments of this country. We also know that sports provides a source of employment for our young teeming population that want to express themselves and helps us to engage them meaningfully so that they don't engage themselves in criminalities. Sports is very, very vital in this country. We know that each time we engage ourselves like we are doing now with Chan in the sports competition, you see Nigerians, you don't remember whether you are from any part of the country, especially in a charged atmosphere like now we have now today, that we are having the issue of herdsmen attack everywhere. When you bring up sports, it acts as a soothing, it has a soothing effect on our people. So I am of the opinion that if you decentralize this commission, this Institute of Sports Act, if you decentralize it in the 6 geopolitical zones, it will help in the engagement of so many people. We know that Lagos is there, but it's not serving the whole generality of this country. And we feel that if we put this in every geopolitical zone, most of our people will participate effectively and will serve in the national development of this country. Having said that much, Mr. President, I want to lend my support and say that this is a straightforward amendment that is going to help in the sports development of this country. Thank you so much.
Distinguished colleagues, they are not going to put the question. Those in favor that this bill be read the second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide for the amendment of the National Institute of Sports Act, Cap N52, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to provide for the decentralization of the Institute and for other related matters, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the amendment of the National Institute of Sports Act, Cap N52, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to provide for the decentralization of the Institute and for other related matters, 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on Sports and report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of the Punishment for Undemocratic Act and Conduct Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in December on Thursday, the 8th of October 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Deputy Senate Leader, Senator Bala Ibn Nala, to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Bala Nala.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. Distinguished colleagues, in order to deepen our democracy and sustain its healthy growth, it has become necessary for the Senate to take the lead by way of legislative intervention to attempt to address actions that have continued to constitute a threat to our nascent democracy. Building a civilized democratic culture has become necessary in view of the ugly trend in the development of our nascent democracy. A situation where certain undemocratic elements are left with intention to work against our laws and ethics under the guise of politics has increasingly become worrisome, and if not checked, may in future greatly affect our democratic culture with attendant consequence of discouraging well-meaning Nigerians with desire to serve this nation to enter politics. Far away from the streams of our politics, and will in turn deprive this country with valuable contributions of these great men and women in our quest for a robust and stable democracy. This attempt is a sunset approach to address the myriad of problems bedeviling our current political atmosphere, and is intended to provide the atmosphere that will promote and sustain our democratic development. The civilized standard established for determining a truly democratic society is anchored on the twin concept of free and fair elections, which have often been confused by some practitioners to mean the same thing, even when they remain mutually repellent, distinct, and distinguishable. Distinguished colleagues, it has once been said by President Richard Nixon that if you dodge away from your responsibilities, you cannot escape the consequences. I submit that the Senate has a responsibility to ensure that our society is reduced to a society where every criminal act is allowed in the name of politics, with the attendant consequence of affecting the legitimacy of those elected into various offices in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The bill is in two parts. Part 1 defines the conduct that have the acceptance of being generally undemocratic, and Part 2 prescribes punishment for those conduct with a view to reducing to the barest minimum the unnecessary risks associated with participating in politics. The bill, which consists of 9 sections, has no financial implication in view of the fact that institutions already exist for administering the criminal justice system in Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, I'm therefore seeking for your support. Allow this bill to pass second reading so that it can determine the premise of our existence as a democratic nation. I so move. Thank you very much.
Senator Abaribe.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. This bill, I can say very clearly that my heart is in it, but my head is against it. As much as my very good friend Ibn Nala is very worried about democratic conduct and its consequences, we can say only one thing. How do you define, how would you say from one act to the other which one is democratic and which one is not? That is why I say that my heart is with him, but my head says this is a very, very difficult bill to pass. Elections have consequences, and when you choose in an election, you must be able to accept the consequence of that choice that you have made. Nigerians chose APC. They must live with the consequences of that. Nobody can wake up now and tell us, like my friend wants to do, that some people are undemocratic. We know that, and therefore they are going to suffer the consequence of their misdeeds in office with another election. That means that we actually do not need this bill to punish those that have been undemocratic. The way to punish them is to make sure they don't come back into office. That is the only way. And of course, if you are in office and you go ahead and commit a crime, the consequences of the commission of that crime is also there. It is up to the executive to do the needful using the institutions already available, which my very good friend has also enumerated here to say that the institutions are available. Now, I think where his problem is today, I can surmise that the problem of Ibinana, our very good friend, is that the executive today has refused to act when they need to act for consequences of what the people do. And we know that also the penalty is there in the Constitution. If a president refuses to act, impeach him. There is no other thing you need to do. If a president...
Point of order, leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the point of order is order 53. Order 53, Mr. President. Order 53. Mr. President. Mr. President, order 53-4. With your permission, Mr. President, I read. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, order 53-4 reads, a senator must confine his observations to the subjects under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleague and friend, Senator Barbie, veered off completely from the subject matter under discussion and in a way cast aspersion on the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and particularly the President, and I believe that he should withdraw those comments and continue to remain on track on our debate. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Leader. Senator, the Leader has come on a point of order. Senator Barbie, definitely you have not even deviated. You have completely gone off the subject matter. So that's for, let me say, point of order is sustained. And then Senator Barbie, as a ranking senator, please let us stick with our rules. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just quoting this lead debate from our very good friend, because what he says here, he says, distinguished colleagues, it has been said by President Richard Nixon that if you dodge away from your responsibilities, you cannot escape the consequences. What does the law say about consequences of dodging away from your responsibility? I was simply explaining that. So let me withdraw the one from the president and say any governor that leaves his responsibility, he should be impeached. That is what is in the Constitution.
I don't think this big of government. So let's truly stick to the debate, Senator Barbie.
Okay, Mr. President, let me say that if the President of the Senate leaves his responsibility,
Senator Abaribe, you are using your years of experience in this plenary to intimidate even the President of the Senate.
Okay, Mr. President, let me just finish by saying that I fully subscribe to what is in this lead debate, that it has become worrisome, because I'm just quoting our very good friend, and if it's not checked, will affect our democratic culture. The instances abound, and yesterday, our former president, our revered president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, even exposed everything.
Senator Abaribe, I don't need a point of order. Even I'll play the role of the leader and the president of the Senate in this matter. Thank you. Any other contributions on this before I put the question on this? Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this be read second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to prescribe punishment for acts and conduct that are undemocratic by elected officials or persons and other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to prescribe punishment for acts and conduct that are undemocratic by elected officials and or persons and other matters connected there with 2018 second reading taken. This bill is referred to Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters. Report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is second reading of the Chartered Institute of Forensic Accountants of Nigeria, Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 21st of December 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Dinomelai to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time. So move.
Senator Dinomelai.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, my name is Dinomelai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I stand to lead the debate on a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Forensic Accountants of Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the bill which seeks to establish the Institute of Forensic Accountants and charges it with the responsibility of determining the level of education needed before a person can become a forensic accountant or a member of the institute. It further seeks to establish the governing council of the institute, which shall have the responsibility of managing the institute and setting standard of education required, and in particular seek to protect accountability, investigative forensic accounting, and litigation support forensic accounting for interests of individuals, organizations, through the instrumentality and enforcement of professional disciplinary code of ethics, was read on Wednesday, the 20th of December, 2017. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the institute was established for provisions of bona fide qualifications for forensic accountants through the administration of professional examinations. As at present, the institute has 6,800 qualified members and 2,400 registered students spread across Nigeria and overseas. Mr. President, qualified members of the institute are not allowed to practice forensic accounting because an act for the institute has not been enacted. The institute is one of the pioneer members of the prestigious Forensic Auditors
Certification Board, FACB of England and Wales, the Global Certification Board, and also a pioneer member of the International Federation of Forensic Accountants and Auditors, IFFAA. Mr. President, the forensic accounting profession is the unique blend of education and experience in applying accounting, auditing skills, and investigative techniques to uncover truth, form legal opinions in order to assist in litigation support. The word forensic means suitable for the use in the court of law. Forensic accounting professionals provide assistance on cases which are primarily related to calculation and estimation of economic damages and related issues that include white-collar crimes. There is an increasing demand worldwide for forensic accountant services, and experience has shown that the demand needs qualified chartered forensic accountants. If the institute is backed by an act of the National Assembly, all its qualified members will be eligible to practice as professional forensic accountants in Nigeria, thereby saving funds and stop reliance on foreign professional forensic accountants to come and render forensic accounting services in Nigeria. We are all living witnesses that in the year 2014, the federal government spent billions of dollars hiring the services of foreign forensic auditors, which include PricewaterhouseCoopers and KPMG, to render forensic audit on NNPC and other agencies of government. Members of the Institute will be able to practice in the area of litigation support, expect witnessing and settlement support in cases related to financial disputes, thereby reducing trial periods. In the present era of fight against financial crimes, members of the Institute can be engaged in complex financial cases by the EFCC, ICPC, the police, lawyers, and the Code of Conduct. In patent infringement damages, the Supreme Court defines patent infringement damages as compensation for pecuniary loss that the penalty has suffered from infringement without regard to the question of whether the defendant has gained or lost by his unlawful acts. If you can prove that someone has infringed on your patent, it is necessary to prove that someone has infringed. It is necessary to document your losses. The chartered forensic accountant can help you document the infringement and quantify the losses. My respected colleagues, the highly respected President of the Nigerian Senate, in the loss of profit of business, if fraud or other illegal activities have caused your business to lose profit, you may be able to recover your profit in court with proper documentation and analysis of your lost profit by a chartered forensic accountant. In intellectual property damages, if someone has caused your intellectual property to be devalued, for example, an individual from your firm quits and sells your concept for a new product to a competing company, you may be entitled to money damages for lost profits. The chartered forensic accountant can help you substantiate your claims by documenting your intellectual property and the assets of the damaging party of your intellectual property. Mr. President, in business interruption claims, if your normal business activity has been interrupted by natural disaster or other causes, you can be able to recover the losses through your business insurance. The chartered forensic accountant will quantify the estimated lost profits and document your loss for your insurance career and, if necessary, for legal proceedings. In construction claims, when damages occur during construction, a building owner must document the state of completion of a new construction. The forensic accountant can help you quantify the lost or damaged assets during any phase of construction. Mr. President, my colleagues, financial implication. The bill consists of 22 clauses
And of importance is Clause 6 of the bill, which provides for financial provision of the Institute. The implication of this emphasis is that Institute is a private-driven organization responsible for its funding at no cost to government. Mr. President, my very distinguished and respected colleagues, the need to establish the Chartered Institute of Forensic Accountants in Nigeria cannot be overemphasized. I therefore call on my distinguished colleagues to support this bill as I move that it be read for the second time. I want to thank you for your attention.
Senator Barrow Jibril.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barrow Jibril. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to support this bill as it has the intendment of establishing the Chartered Institute of Forensic Accountants of Nigeria. Forensic accounting is a specialized branch of accounting which has come or which has developed in our contemporary time. It is really desirable, that branch of accounting is valuable in this country in our current situation, that we are serious about fighting corruption, especially financial crimes. It is a branch of accounting that will investigate, is designed to investigate crimes and give expert opinion about such crimes in course of law. They give testimony, they give expert evidence, and they are really useful in convicting financial criminals. It is on this note that I feel having an institute that will regulate the activities of these professionals is really desirable. Mr. President, forensic accountants are found everywhere globally. They help in no small measure. There's no way that you can successfully fight crime in this country, corruption in this country, without the use of forensic accountants. I know there might be opposition from the mainstream accounting professionals in this country who may argue that every accountant can do that, but no, let's go along with the trend, along with what is in vogue all over the world. This is what is in vogue. You cannot fight crime successfully, particularly complex crimes, complex financial crimes, without the use of forensic accountants. So this note that I support this bill, and I urge my colleagues to also support this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Alashadra.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Tayo Alashadra, representing Ondo Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I do not support this bill for the following reasons. We were told on page 1 of this lead debate, item number 3 there, that there are about 6,800 qualified members and 2,400 registered students all over the world. Chartered accountants and those people who do such jobs, who are trained, you know, in their professional callings, are the people who do forensic audits. If you go to item number, paragraph number 5 on page 1, my distinguished colleague said the forensic accounting profession is a unique blend of education and experience in applying accounting. That is what accountants are trained for. Auditing skills, it is the chartered accountants and so on that are skilled in audit and investigative techniques. Those are the jobs that chartered accountants are trained for. And if you go to page 2, sir, where it is said if the institute is backed by an act, I will read, all its qualified members will be eligible to practice as professional forensic accountants in Nigeria, thereby saving funds and stop reliance on foreign professional forensic accountants to come and render forensic accounting services in Nigeria. We are all living witnesses that in the year 2014, the federal government spent billions of dollars handling the services of foreign forensic auditors, which includes PricewaterhouseCoopers and KPMG. These two firms that were referred to in this lead debate are Nigerian firms of chartered accountants, and we should stop, duplicating institutions and other agencies in this country, so that we will have standards. We water down our standards, at every point of our development. And lastly, sir, page 3, item number 9 there. In construction claims, when damages occur during construction, a building owner must document the state of completion of the new construction. The forensic accountant, for God's sake, it is the engineers that quantify, jobs. You have different kinds of engineering profession that will do that job, and then anybody who renders professional service will be is entitled to go to the court and defend his professional work. So on that note, Mr. President, I wish to strongly, oppose the establishment of this institute. Thank you very much.
Yes, Senator Kubri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. I beg to differ a little bit with my colleague, that is Alashada, because because what I'm saying is that branch of accounting has so many specializations, out of which you have this forensic accounting, cost management accounting, financial accounting, and so many other things. So I think there is need to specialize. And specialization in this case will certainly mean that these people should be able to investigate and come up with the estimate of the extent of damages on the economy. And I think that is why this forensic accounting is important. So I support it, and I think there is no need we waste time on this one. We'll just simply pass it. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Senator Abdul Fattah, go ahead.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, my name is Buhari Abdul Fattah Oyonot. Mr. President, I differ also with Senator Alasho Adura. It is expected that those people who are accountant, either ANAN and ICANN, will see it from a different angle. But in the 21st century, we should move on the trend the way the world is moving. Forensic accounting is practiced all over the world. The first thing it achieves, it reduces cost. And it allows us to get the fact of issue. Even in issue, you'll be able to track all what is meant for the particular thing, and it is done the other way. And then you'll be able to have everything correct, and you have your data and fact. And it's even accepted in the court of law in case there is a litigation. In a situation where you still want to continue the way it is done, and we've been doing things like that, and we are not getting results, why can't we, for example, change for the first time? Look at this, sir. In 2014, billions of dollars were spent on PricewaterhouseCoopers and KPMG. And these are the 4 largest companies that have been operating since we were in the university in the early 80s. And things have not changed. Corruption has not changed. So if we have a new system where we can easily use it to attack corruption, and people know that it is foolproof the way it is done in the developed world, I think we'll be able to take this country to where we ought to be. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, let me put the question. Those in favor that this bill be read second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Forensic Accountants of Nigeria and for related matters, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Forensic Accountants of Nigeria and for related matters, 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to Committee on Establishment and Public Service report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the second reading of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport of Nigeria Establishment Etc. Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 7th of June 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Olube Nga Ashafa to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Nga Ashafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Benga Ashafa, representing the Lagos Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am pleased to flag off the debate on the general principles of a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport Nigeria 2016. The bill was read for the first time on the 7th of June 2016 in this hallowed chamber. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, everyday governments, businesses, and individuals make logistics and transportation decisions over available transportation infrastructure. Institutions and people often use data generated from the activities in this sector to take decisions that further promote better accessibility to markets, employment, and additional investment opportunities. The world economy is increasingly being driven by service-based activities of various kinds, with logistics and transport services at the forefront. As revealed in the 2011 World Development Report, the services accounted for almost 71% of global GDP in 2010 and is expanding at a faster rate. In the case of Nigeria, its logistics sector is estimated to contribute over 200 billion to our economy with an annual growth rate of 10%. The transport sector's estimated contribution is put at about 10% of the country's GDP. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in consideration of the professional content of logistics and transport, the federal government in the 1980s supported and encouraged the running of university degree courses in transport and related areas. It further facilitated the establishment of the Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology Zaria in order to inject technical know-how in the manpower stock. Today, with about 10 universities running graduate and postgraduate degrees in logistics, transport, and related disciplines, the number of graduates annually from these universities is abysmal. Challenge, therefore, is in the standardization of quality of their professional practice, license procedure, certification, and development of ethics of the profession that will guarantee safety of operations, uniformity of practice, and, of course, integrity. The Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport is well positioned to close this void and ensure enhanced service delivery, promote public welfare, safety and well-being of the populace through the regulation of professional practice and licensure of professionalism of the practitioners. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, what this bill seeks to achieve is the establishment of a professional body to certify the highest level of logistics and transport education and research with a view to improving the value chain for economic sustainability and business competitiveness. The passage of this bill will enable individuals, corporate organizations, and government at all levels to receive quality, structured, and articulated professional advice, either directly from the Institute or through its licensed professionals. Such advice will go a long way to assist in better planning, policy drafting, operation, administration, and management of the transportation systems in the country, amongst other things. Similarly, when this bill is passed, it will empower the Institute to officially advocate for practices that will lead to a more efficient logistics and transport service delivery by protecting the interests of service providers, investors, entrepreneurs, and consumers. 2, lead to the adherence to environmental standards, good policies, better planning, and quality regulations. 3, grow the net worth of companies operating in the sector and attract huge private sector funding. And lastly, render effective logistics and transportation services. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the logistics and transportation sector in Nigeria is challenged and requires ingenuity for today and vision for tomorrow. This bill holds the promise of bringing the entire logistics and transport chain into an organized system that will drive efficiency, promote trade facilitation, and quality of service. This bill has no financial implication whatsoever. I therefore urge my colleagues to throw their support behind this bill. Thank you.
Yes, Senator Lidani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani. I represent from the South. I rise to lend my support to this bill on the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. We are all witnesses to what is happening in the world today. Communication is becoming faster, and the world is becoming a global village. All this is aided by the increase in transportation and logistics. We have had developments in commercial transportation, especially we have now the Uber taxi services. We have courier companies, and all of these things are involved in transportation and logistics services. But there is a need for standardization of these services. There is a need for them to be brought along with other standards available worldwide. But there is an absence of enabling law that will create this enabling environment for these companies to thrive, and for legal guidelines to be provided that will enable the operations of these companies and so on. So I support this bill, and I believe if it is passed, it will help in creating setting standards. It will enable the operators have guidelines for operating their businesses, and then it will make for good business practice. And anybody coming to the country who needs information will easily refer to this bill and will refer to the relevant guidelines for operating logistics service company. So I support this bill, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Yes, and to Dino Malai.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Malai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I want to start by saluting the intellectual sagacity of Senator Ashafa for bringing such a very beautiful bill at this time in our nation's history. Mr. President, everywhere in the world where the economy is booming, transport and transport business has been taken as serious as any other thing. As I speak to you, Mr. President, transportation is the second income earning for the United Kingdom. Transportation in Canada, in the United States of America, is a major source of IGR for those countries and governments. In this country, we have been very lackadaisical in our approach to developing the transport sector. Our founding fathers and leaders of this country, in their own very intellectually mobile wisdom, created the Institute of Transport Technology in Zaria to help propagate the advantages and merits in the transport sector. But even funding for that institution has become a problem. Programs and degree programs have been created in Nigerian universities, but because of awareness, because of orientation, students do not even understand the economic importance of that course. So a bill like this will help to herald and evangelize the advantage in transport sector. And not only that, also improve the welfare of any transport company that have more than 10 staff. So the bill seeks to actually promote very seriously economic reintegration and boost our social life. So Mr. President, there is nothing called too much good. Anything that is good wants to be better. So this bill seeks to better the transport sector of this country, and I expect that the Senate will support it wholeheartedly, and the implementation should also be encouraged by everyone who will find himself in this hallowed chamber. So I so support the bill, and I ask my colleagues to please do.
Mr. English, I put the question. Those in favor that this bill be read the second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport of Nigeria and for related matters 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport of Nigeria and for related matters 2018, second reading taken. Bill is referred to the Committee on Land Transport and report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is second reading of the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Act 2006, Amendment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 30th of November 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Oluremi Tinubu to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Tinubu.
Mike. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, it is a privilege to lead the debate on the Nigerian Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency (NOSRA) Amendment Bill SB 557, which was first read on Tuesday, 30th November 2017. The Nigerian Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency was established in 2006 by an Act of Parliament which empowered the agency, among other things, to implement the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, which entails preparedness, detection, and response to all oil spillages in Nigeria. The agency is saddled with the onerous responsibility of ensuring compliance with all existing environmental legislation in the oil sector. Having encountered a number of glitches in its operational duties, which have made it difficult to function optimally and adequately respond to oil spill accidents, it has become pertinent to amend the Act. This is in furtherance of this Senate's commitment to strengthening institutions for maximum impact. The amendment seeks to alter the name of the agency and change it to National Oil Pollution Management Agency, NOPMA. This is to include in the scope of the agency's mandate management of oil spills, which incorporates oil waste, gas flares, and other noxious substances to ensure protection of the environment. Oily waste and gas flare are often byproducts of petroleum. Therefore, this amendment will remove any kind of restriction and ambiguity in what constitutes oil spill, as these are waste products capable of having the same devastating effect on the environment as oil spill. While the Act expressly mentions oil spill only, there is pollution being perpetrated through gas leaks, oil waste, and other hazardous substances which are only covered by regulations, thus making enforcement difficult. For NOSDRA to be effective in the role for which it was established, therefore it is necessary to incorporate oil waste, gas leakages, and other hazardous substances that are harmful to the environment in its enabling act. This amendment seeks to create an oil spill management fund for managing oil spill disasters caused by third-party interference. This fund, therefore, is to provide for such incidents and remediation of the impacted sites for the benefit of every Nigerian. In addition, it seeks to punish failure to report oil spills and reduce incidences of evasion of fines, which have become the bane of the oil sector while upwardly reviewing fines payable. Under the Extant Act, the fine obtainable is capped at 500,000 naira per day and 1 million naira for failure to report an oil spill and clean up the impacted site respectively. This, we will all agree, is a small amount for oil companies who generate incomes in millions of dollars, with the effect that such a small fine is neither prohibitive or punitive and thus serves no purpose. The amendment is intended to create a sense of urgency on the part of the facility owners in reporting and cleaning up polluted sites. It is expected that operators in the industry will begin to improve their safety standards in order to minimize spills in best possible manner. Another aspect worthy of analysis is the provision in Clause 6(2)(b) of the bill, which touches on the leakages from gas pipelines and storage facilities. Leakages of this sort also wreak devastating havoc on the environment and thus must be treated with same level of urgency as that of oil spillage and reported within the same time frame. And failure to do so should attract the same fine of 2 million naira only. Report by the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency recorded 9,343 spill incidents in over 5,000 spill sites within a decade, spanning 2006 to 2015. However, less than 300 million naira was collected in fines over the period. In assessing what powers should be granted to Nigeria's Oil Spill Response Agency, we must have recourse to what is obtainable in other oil-producing countries. In 2010, over 3 million barrels of oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico. The United States government subsequently announced creation of a $20 billion spill response fund. In addition, pursuant to the defaulter pays principle, BP, the airing company, paid over $13 billion in fines. Since NOSDRA does not have such money in fines or allocation from the Nigerian budget, its hands are tied. It cannot undertake the cleanup, neither can it provide formidable checks and balance on these powerful oil companies. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, support for this bill is support for the protection of our environment and our people, for the strengthening of our institutions, and for increased regulation of the activities of oil companies carrying on business in the Niger Delta and over Nigeria. In accordance with the requirement of the Senate Standing Order Rule 2015 as amended, this bill has no financial implications and is at no cost to government. Distinguished colleagues, I urge you all to support this bill. Accordingly, move that this bill to be read a second time. Before I conclude, I will seek the support of my colleagues, because NOSRA is a very vital agency, and unfortunately, even the 10% that was recorded to be given to them from the ecological fund, I don't think that has been accessed yet. So this bill is very important for them to be able to have a viable agency. And I want to thank you again for allowing me to lead the debate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Nala.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. It's important to start by, first of all, formidably seconding the second reading of this bill for two reasons. One, it's a well thought out bill, and the reason being that Nigeria, having failed to meet up with its obligation in the Global Fund for combating spills and in the Atlantic and other areas where passage of ships are guaranteed internationally, means that it cannot access those funds from the International Maritime Organization. And what that means is that it has significantly reduced its ability to respond with alacrity when issues of spill that has to do with degrading of our environment takes place. So if a bill of this nature is coming at this time, I think the sponsor need very serious commendation and the cooperation of this Senate. The reason being that the environment in which we live is subject to so many challenges, from climate change to so many issues, more especially Nigeria, that we do not have a systematized guarantee system of protecting our environment. So an attempt to take what can be a major problem to our environmental challenges, which has to do with spill, as initiated in this bill by distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu, should be an attempt that is worth commendation by the Senate. I do not see any reason why this bill should be subjected to much debate. I think that it is a straightforward matter that needs the cooperation of each and every member of this Senate, because our environment is dear to us as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'm therefore urging my colleagues to support this bill to pass second reading today.
Is anybody against this bill? Let me put the question here, Senator Gubri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. Certainly the bill is very good and important, but the only area that I think we should look at is the area of funding itself. Because in the United States, when this problem happened, more than 70% of that money was paid by BP, petroleum. So that's why I'm thinking that we have to come up with the funding, who should pay what, so that we can be able to move.
Okay, I'll put the question in. Those in favor of this bill read the second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. Guys have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the National Oil Spill Detection Response Agency Act 2006 and for other related matters 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the National Oil Spill Detection Response Agency Act 2006 and for other related matters 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to Committee on the Environment, report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh order of the day is the second reading of the African Union Convention for the Protection and Assistance of the Internally Displaced Persons in Africa, Domestication and Enforcement Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 6th of July 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator David Umaru to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator David Moro.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm delighted to have this opportunity to lead the debate on the general principles of the African Union Convention for the Protection and Assistance of Internally Displaced Persons in Africa, Domestication and Enforcement Bill 2018. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues will recall that this bill was read for the first time on the 6th of July 2017. The bill essentially seeks to domesticate and provide the legal and institutional framework for the implementation of the African Union Convention for the Protection and Assistance of Internally Displaced Persons in Africa, Kampala Convention, which was signed by the federal government of Nigeria on the 23rd of October 2009 and formally ratified on the 17th of April 2012. This is in line with the requirement of Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution, amended, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which requires that treaties signed between Nigeria and other countries should be domesticated by an act of the National Assembly before implementation. The primary motivation behind this bill is to put in place an ideal legal framework and mechanism for addressing core internally displaced persons, IDPs issues in the country. The domestication of the Kampala Convention will pave way for more attention to be paid to other germane issues pertaining to IDPs nationwide, such as prevention, protection, rehabilitation, reintegration and resettlement of survivors, reconstruction of damaged infrastructure, and environmental remediation, but without compromising on the prompt, efficient, and sustainable delivery of relief assistance to IDPs where necessary. The former aspects of IDPs management are not adequately addressed under the existing legal framework as a result of overlap of statutory responsibilities or poor delineation of mandates. As a result of this, most victims of displacement are left to their fate after the relief phase or even without basic relief assistance. The background to the existing legal order, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, IDPs are people who have been forced to flee their homes as a result of human or natural disasters and have not crossed an internationally recognized state border. They differ from refugees in the sense that they are not displaced beyond the boundaries of their countries of origin. The major causes of internal displacement in Nigeria in the last 2 decades includes armed conflict, insurgency in the northeast, farmers and herders clashes, large-scale developmental projects, generalized violence of political or religious nature, human rights violations, flood and other natural disasters, man-made disasters also, and so on. As at the end of 2014, Nigeria accounted for at least 1 million of the 38 million IDPs worldwide. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, reported that as of 2012, an estimated 7.7 million people were affected by flood disasters across the Federation, out of which over 2.1 million people were IDPs. It was further reported that of the 2.1 million displaced by the flood nationwide, 363 persons died and 18,292 people sustained various degrees of injuries. The essence of this is to actually explain the extent of this problem that needs to be addressed by this bill. It is important to state here that while NEMA, established under the National Emergency Management Agency Establishment Act and the National Commission for Refugees, established under the National Commission on Refugees Act, and a host of other MDAs have been carrying out collaborative relief assistance to IDPs, none of these institutions, including those at the state levels, have adequately addressed the post-relief aspects of the IDPs management, such as prevention, protection, rehabilitation, reintegration, and resettlement of survivors, reconstruction of damaged infrastructure, and environmental remediation. In reality, therefore, NEMA, NCR, MDA, and other state emergency relief managements have become first responders to natural or man-made disaster sites in Nigeria. The resultant effect of this is that between 11 to 8 million of IDPs outside the northeastern part of the country who have been displaced by endless herdsmen and farmers' clashes, large-scale project development projects, land disputes, etc. are without intervention in terms of rehabilitation and resettlement. It is equally important to add that the legal and institutional framework put forward by the Northeast Development Commission Establishment Act, which was only passed recently by this National Assembly following humanitarian challenges caused by the Boko Haram in the Northeast, has also failed to address the problem of IDPs in other parts of the country. It is against this background that a new framework that will holistically deal with the core IDP issues from the relief stage to resettlement and reconstruction of damaged infrastructure as contemplated by Nigeria's international obligation under this treaty becomes compelling. The passage of this bill will pave way for an effective mechanism for monitoring the implementation of the convention and future policies pertaining to IDPs in Nigeria, while NEMA will continue to discharge its functions as a first responder and a coordinating body for humanitarian assistance to the natural man-made disasters as provided in the Enabling Act, and the NCR will be concentrating on the refugee crisis. The mechanism proposed under this bill will complement emergency relief agencies nationwide as it pertains to core IDP issues, especially post-relief phases. Accordingly, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill has 26 clauses, part 1, and divided into 7 parts. Part 1 comprises 3 clauses, which deals with title, interpretation, enforcement provisions, while clause 2 proposes to give force of law and recognition to the provisions of the Kampala Convention. Part 3 comprises of 8 clauses, and this incorporates the international principles of dealing with IDP issues as prevention, protection, and assistance. Part 3 comprises 6 clauses dealing with the administrative and enforcement aspects of the bill. Here it is important to point out that the proposal for the establishment of National Action Committee, which is clause 15, modeled after the recent ad hoc task forces used by the federal government recently. The function of the committee are spelled out under clause 16. Another novel provision is the proposal for the establishment of an IDP fund under clause 13, which is usually specified under clause 14 of the bill. In conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, there is no one here that is not facing IDP crisis in his constituency as a result of the peculiar challenges that we are all facing in this country. In view of the foregoing explanation, particularly the recent incident that we are now dealing with, which is the Plenary crisis, I urge all of us to support this bill, speedy passage of this bill, as it is important, that the issue of IDPs be addressed once and for all. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in compliance with Order 77 of the Senate Standing Orders 2015, a financial compendium capturing the financial implication of this bill is attached herewith for your kind consideration. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, and to Barajibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Barajibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to support this bill and also commend the mover of the bill who bring it to the fore the problem that is being faced, or the problem that is being faced by IDPs in this country. And not only in this country, but in the whole of Africa. And in particular, this bill, which is seeking to domesticate the African Union Convention for the Protection and Assistance of Internally Displaced Persons, is something that is desirable in this country. Very, very desirable. We all know what IDPs are going through in Nigeria in particular. The countries are washed with IDPs everywhere. And they are facing problems, particularly of hunger. Some are even being killed. The women among them being raped. and so on and so forth. Now, having a legislation such as this, which is going to assist other existing legislations in protecting these people, I think it's something that should be embraced by all and sundry. It is a direct, something that is very, very clear. The intent of the bill is something that should be embraced and very clear. I don't think we need much debate on this because it's something that is humanitarian. It's something that deals with our people, the sufferings of our people. We've seen how we have clashes all over the country, from the north to the south. In almost all the geopolitical zones, you have IDPs, and they are all suffering. So, any legislation that is geared towards assisting them, towards protecting them, towards giving them succor, I think it's something that every senator of this hallowed chamber, the highest assembly in this country, should embrace. I therefore urge my colleagues to embrace this bill, to support this bill, so that it can be passed, so that we can really bring succor to help to give further succor to the IDPs that are scattered around this country. I so submit, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be read the second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to make provision for the prevention, protection, and provision of assistance to internally displaced persons and affected communities in Nigeria and give effect to the African Union Convention for the protection and assistance of the internally displaced persons in Africa and for related matters, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to make provisions for the prevention, protection, and provision of assistance of internally displaced persons and affected communities in Nigeria and give effect to the African Union Convention for the protection and assistance of the internally displaced person in Africa and for related matters, 2018, second reading, take it. This bill is referred to the Committee on Special Duties and to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down the consideration of the 8th order of the day because the sponsor is not around, and in fact he requested that we stand it down till another legislative day. So I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion that we stand down the 8th item on the other paper.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 9th order of the day is second reading of the Correction, Reformation, and Reintegration Center Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will report that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 23rd of June 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Gershom Bassey to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Gershom Bassey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershom Bassey, representing the people of Cross River South Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is with immense delight that I commence this debate on the general principles of the Correction, Reformation, and Reintegration Center Establishment Bill 2016, which was read for the first time in this chamber on the 23rd day of June 2016. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill seeks to bring the Nigerian prison system and administration in line with the objectives of the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners 1990. This rule aims at the implementation of non-custodial measures as an alternative to strict imprisonment and the promotion of reformation and rehabilitation of prisoners. This bill further seeks to cure the problem of prison congestion in Nigeria. Mr. President, the Prison Act of 1972 makes no provision for reformation, correction, and rehabilitation of inmates. This informs the reason why our judges and magistrates most times commit accused persons to various terms of imprisonment strictly for punishment. The Nigerian prison service also appears to have the erroneous belief that the only way to reduce crime is to keep offenders permanently away, since offenders in the prison deserve the punishment and humiliation that they get. This apparent attitude by government and its prison service has fueled prison congestion in Nigeria. In other climes, a sentence pronounced by a judge or magistrate does not always take a convicted person to prison. For instance, the convict may be made to serve his sentence from home by carrying out supervised community service. Mr. President, in the words of the former British Prime Minister David Cameron, prison reform is a subject that is rarely found in the agenda of any government. That is why it can be easy for us all, when these buildings, prisons, are closed off by high walls and barbed wire, to adopt an out-of-sight and out-of-mind attitude. But here's the point. 99% of them will be released one day back into our communities. Mr. President, the failure to reform and reintegrate prisoners makes them reoffend. Reoffense matters to government because billions of naira are budgeted every day to maintain prisons and inmates. It matters to society, since society is the victim of reoffenders. We are aware that the Nigerian Prison Service occasionally partners with some NGOs to correct and rehabilitate prison inmates on an ad hoc basis. This partnership, by its definition, hardly brings positive outcomes. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this country must develop a sensible statutory plan for prison reform that will deliver better outcomes, improved public safety, and lower cost to taxpayers. The administration of justice system and prison program in many countries like India, UK, Canada, Singapore are fashioned towards achieving the reformation and reintegration of inmates. These systems have brought about a reduction in recidivism in these countries because offenders come out of prison much better than when they went in. The establishment of bodies like the Central Bureau of Correctional Services in India, Correction Service of Canada, Prison Reform Trust UK, Her Majesty's Prison Service in the UK has made prisoners become better members of society and appreciate society better. Distinguished colleagues, this is exactly what this bill seeks to achieve through the establishment of the Center for Reform and Reintegration, with the aim of providing programs that will correct, reform, and ensure that an offender is better off at the time of release than at the time of admission. This bill also provides for schemes like the halfway house scheme, home detention scheme, work release scheme. These schemes help to reduce prison congestion and ensure that prisoners are well reformed and suitably risk assessed before being released back into the community. Structure of the bill. The Correction, Rehabilitation and Reintegration Center will operate under the Federal Ministry of Interior. The bill has 14 sections. Find attached the compendium of financial implications of the bill. Distinguished colleagues, I hereby urge you to support this bill in its entirety. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Ben Bruce.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Ben Bruce, representing Bayelsa East. This bill is very important because of what is happening in Nigeria today. People are convicted of various crimes. They go into prison. The conditions are terrible at best. There is no reform program at the prison system. They come out as worse criminals than they went in. I spoke to President Obasanjo when he was in the Yola prison, and he told me many stories of many prisoners and how they behaved and the conditions under which they served while he was in prison for 3.5 years. And other prisoners who have left prison that I've spoken to, political detainees, the conditions are atrocious at best. And if there's no reform system in prison, what we're doing basically is, if we send a first offender to prison for a petty crime and he's in prison for 1 year, and in prison he meets people who have committed murder, rape, maimed people, stole billions of naira, and into court system, that person, after spending 1 year locked up in a cell, is more likely to be a hardened criminal than when they went in. If that person is eventually released, we have a menace to society, not someone who has been reformed. So Bassi, in proposing this bill, is doing something profound. One, there are many ways you can reform someone who has committed a crime, home confinement and so on and so forth, that the bill clearly talks about. There is a cost involved in it, but the cost is worth it, because if we save a prisoner who is a first offender, we may be protecting lots of lives and property of someone that first offender could get hardened and killed in crimes that person may commit when they get out of prison. So I support this bill. It's incredible. Something that they should add is private prisons. We need private prisons. Abroad, prisoners become farmers. They go out and farm. They make license plates. They do all kinds of things. They do menial work, things that can help society, and they get paid. So there are many, many ways. I'm sure when the committee looks at it, they can look at other ways these prisoners can be productive, can be effective, and can become better members of society when they are released. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people go to prison because they were wondering. They committed no crimes in the first place because the justice system is so bad. A lot of innocent people are in prison. So we have that problem to worry about. And then those who really commit the crime need to be rehabilitated, not to kill. If we feel the crime is such that they should be killed, then have them shot and save us all this trouble, and it's cheaper. But if we're going to reform them, let's reform them properly. Mr. President, this is a beautiful bill. It's an incredible bill. If you don't support it, I don't think there's any more debate necessary. On that note, I sit down. I second it.
Senator Ochendu. Senator Ochendu, you want to?
Thank you, Mr. President, my dear colleagues. I am Mamtu Ochendu. I represent Rivers Senatorial District. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, we need to all thank Senator Garo for bringing this bill for amendment. It's surprising actually that an act that was promulgated or passed since 1972 is just being amended. Mr. President, I only want to add one dimension to it. It says that most times magistrates and judges commit accused person to various terms of imprisonment. And there are so many Nigerians that have been accused of one thing or the other, and if taken to court, may likely be discharged. Mr. President, I am referring to those Nigerians who in recent times have been granted general amnesty. If actually taken to court, maybe 50 or 30% of them may be convicted. And that number will increase the number in the prisons. And because of the general amnesty being granted them, they are granted freedom. And I see this as part of the reformation. There are cases of out-of-court settlement, and there are also cases of plea bargain. Mr. President, what I am trying to say, my dear colleagues, is that these are dimensions that will be added into this new amendment that will make some of our policies to be properly codified and grounded, so that at the end of the day, we are given succor to a lot of people that ordinarily would have suffered for no just cause. I therefore urge other colleagues to support this bill. It is time we correct and amend this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, let me put a question. Those in favor that this bill be read the second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish a correction, reformation, and reintegration center to provide support services for prisons in the area of reformation, reintegration, and youthful offender programming, and for related matters, 2018. Second.
A bill for an act to establish a correction, reformation, and reintegration center to provide support services for prisons in the area of reformation, reintegration, and youthful offender programming, and for related matters 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on the Interior and report back within 4 weeks. Let me seize this opportunity to please employ the Committee of Interior. There are 2 bills before you on prison reform that has been with the committee. One was the Nigerian Prison and Correctional Services by Senator Shaba Lafiaji, and another one by Senator Olu Remitinumbu. Please send, if you can make this priority, been with the committee for a while, so that in 2 weeks we can take this. Because as long as we're doing some of this correction, we really need to take the real issue of our prisons reform. And so, Daniel, please try and get that report back for us for consideration and passage. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down the consideration of the 10th order of the day, which is the second reading of the National Agricultural Land Development Authority Act of NF LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018, sponsored by Senator Mao. Senator Mao is unavoidably absent. I therefore move that we stand down the consideration till another legislative day.
Mr. President, I second the motion that this matter be stood until another legislative day.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having successfully concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn tomorrow, Thursday the 25th of January 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt. I so move.
I second the motion that we stand adjourned tomorrow, 26th of January 2018.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we adjourn to Thursday, 25th January, 10 a.m. prompt, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is accordingly adjourned to Thursday, 25th January, 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt.